operating system both different from each other and how they are working, the basic things of these operating systems. So everybody knows about the Windows, how it's running, and everybody is working on the Windows from last many decades. So it was found in April 4, 1975 by Bill Gates and Paul Allen. And this is the team of the 11 members who created the Microsoft Windows. These are the desktop versions of the Microsoft Windows. It is started from the 1982 to 1985. That was Windows version 1.0, that is having a DOS-based operating system. After that, they have used to changes on the graphical user interfaces and create the latest updated version of the Windows desktop version is Windows 10. There are other versions are also there, Windows 95, Windows 98, Windows XP, Windows Vista, Windows 7, 8, and 8.1, all are there for the Microsoft Windows. These are the server editions of the Microsoft Windows. Both desktop and server editions are different in the nature, in the working of their operating systems. It is both are the GUI, but one is a multi-user multitasker, but the other desktop version is not a multi-user. No more than one user can log in to desktop version at the same time. Windows 1993 in the Windows NT was there, but the latest version of the server is Windows 2019 these days running on the servers. Windows 2012 has its version of release 2. R2 is named, which is called as a release 2. This is the Windows operating system timeline. It is started from the 1.0, and these days we having the server 2019 and Windows 10. The desktop version having the Windows 10 version, and 2019 is the server version. Server version basically is a different kind of versions because it's used to giving the services, provide the services, create for the web services, or you can create the FTP services, or you can create the other type of servers to fulfill the request which is generated by the client. But on the desktop, on the other side, the desktop version is the standalone system which is used by an end user to generate the request. Windows NT is a new technology, family OS, first version released in July 1993, and it is a full 32-based operating system version. It is name taken from Intel i860. Code name was N10, and NT is already told you that expanded to the new technology for the marketing. This is the basically Windows NT. Windows NT has a 4 editions: server editions, workstations, server enterprise edition, terminal server, and embedded. These are the different type of operating system which is working on the different kind of hardware, and these are installed on the different kind of hardwares. Windows 2000 editions are professional server, advanced server, data center server, advanced data center server. All the server Windows operating system are these days are having the 32-bit and 64-bit architecture both. Some kind of a data center server edition is most frequently used these days because they are used to create number of operating system, number of users on that. They can be used as a multi-user operating system these days. These are the versions of the 2003 editions. How Windows is easy to understand because it is having the GUI based operating system, and they have the graphical user interface. If you know how to execute Windows XP, you can easily migrate to Windows 10. Means functionalities are same. Kind of their structure is the same. If I talk about the Windows, if you want to install the Windows, you just need to create a space for that, like C drive you need to create, and that all the partitions and all the that files and folders and all, you can say the file structure is created on the C drive. Why it's always created on the C drive? Because A and B is already allocated for the floppy drive and the zip drive. Whenever you installed Windows, it create a C drive for that. It basically install all the folders into the C drive folder. Whether it's a program and file structure, whether it's of a Windows folder, whether it's a document and setting folder, it will be automatically created by the Windows operating system. Every folder which is created under that Windows operating system having a different manner. Like if you are talking about the Windows system files, it will be under the Windows folder under System32 folder. And if you talk about the third-party tools where installed, it will be installed in the program files folder, whether it's of a 32-bit, whether it's of a 64-bit. Whenever you try to install Windows, it will create a basic structure of your file system. Windows can work on FAT32, FAT16, NTFS file systems. Actually, if you are running a Windows, it will automatically create its base partitions and all the file structure will be written by automatically. Whenever you install a file, whenever you install a program, whether it's of a .msi, whether it's of a .bat, .exe, it will automatically go to C drive program file structure. But if you talk about the other operating system which are available in the market, like a Linux is operating system which is available in the market, we'll discuss about it also. These are different from each other. Earlier, Windows having its command line interface that is called the DOS mode. These days, it is also there, but using that commands, everybody is using to frequent to use its graphical user interface. On the other hand, if you talk about the Linux, it's having both graphical user interface as well as the command line interface. And in the Windows, there are a number of versions available, like whether it's of a data center version, whether it's of a desktop version. But it is a closed system. Windows is a closed system. Nobody knows in which file what is written in there. For example, if I want to know that where the IP address of the machine is written, it will be stored in somewhere in Windows folder. Where all the users are written, it will be stored in the some System32 folder. But we don't know exact information about which file having the information of that. On the other hand, if you talk about the Linux operating system, it is the open system, which is having all the information about every user, every configuration file is open. You can check it. If you are a super user, you can check that. There are a number of things which are different from each other from these operating systems. Like if we talk about in Windows, they are using a backward slash for giving the path of the file system. But in the Linux, they are using the forward slash. Every system is started from the forward slash in the Linux based operating systems. These are the Windows 2008 editions: Foundation, Standard, Enterprise, Data Center, Web Server, HPC, and Italian based systems. These are the editions which are of the 2008 Windows operating system. This is a comparison between the features of Foundation, Essential, Standard, and Data Centers. Hyper-V is there. In Data Center editions, there is a Hyper-V. Means you can create the virtualization into that operating system. You can create inside you can create another operating system into a operating system of a data center. Means you can allocate two different IPs, two different machines. You can create two different, two or more than, not two, more than two You can create environments for that, and you can execute different applications in a different environment. Maximum RAM 32-bit and a 64-bit can be used for the 64 GB to 2 TBs. CPUs, it is the of a 64-bit hot swap of RAM and CPU, which is available in the data center edition. It means you can change and you can remove and install the RAM and the CPUs when the system is running. That is called the hot swappable. You can create the cluster from that. There is a terminal server is also present in the standard and the data center edition. 2019 is the latest version of the Windows Server operating system by Microsoft as a part of the Windows NT family of operating systems, developed concurrently with the Windows 10 version. It succeeds Windows Server 2016, announced on March 20, 2018, and officially released in October 2, 2018. That is a start date of Windows Server 2019 is November 13, 2018. Mainstream support is up until January 9, 2024. Extended support is 2029. These are the other things you can go for the Wikipedia for the version comparison. Now we'll talk about Linux operating system. Okay. The Linux is a little bit of a different. I'm not saying the little bit, it is different from the Windows operating system because its installation is different, its file structure is different, its commands are different, its overall GUI is different from Windows. If you want to install Linux, you can use any kind of flavor. You can use Red Hat, you can use CentOS, you can use Ubuntu, you can use Kali Linux. There are a number of flavors available of Linux these days. So for installation of Linux, you need to download the operating system from their website, and they are freely available. Some flavors having the support is paid, like Red Hat having the paid support, but you can download its version that is CentOS, that is a free use, and support is also available for that. For installation of the Windows, installation of the Linux, it is a little bit of different from Windows operating system installation. Like Windows is running on FAT16, FAT32 or NTFS file formats. Linux is running on ext format. It can be ext2, ext3, ext4 generals. ext2, ext3 and ext4 are different file systems. They having the different features, you can say that, of the file system. Download the Linux operating system and burn it on a DVD or a pen drive, then boot it from that media. You can install on any kind of a hardware. This is a file structure of a Linux. Here it's written as a Ubuntu file system, but it is a similar file system which is having in every kind of Linux operating system. They having a forward slash, started from the forward slash. Every structure is created under it, whether it's of a user's file, whether it's of any server file, whether it's of any configuration file, whether it's of any network kind of file, anything, it will be under the slash directory. Slash is a forward slash which having all the things into it, like it having the folder slash bin, the first folder, that is slash bin slash boot slash dev slash etc. Every structure is created by when you install a Linux operating system on your machine. It will be automatically created by the system itself. Whenever you install it, it's having one directory /home directory. /home directory is basically a local storage of your users, which is created under that installation. One is a root user, which is not under that /home directory, but that other users which are different from the root user, which are created under /home directory. This is a default scenario. But if you want to change that, you can change that, because Linux is an open source. You can change whatever you want. You can change under the GNU, generally not Unix. It's a GPL, General Public License. It allows you to download it, modify it, and update it, upload it. You can change anything. But you must know which file will affect on your operating system. Like /bin is a directory where all the executable files are stored, which can be executed by both local user as well as the root user. One directory is sbin, which is different from the bin directory. It's having executable files, but those executable files only execute by a root user, because these are the secured binaries. It is different from the binaries. Binaries are the commands which are executed only by a local user and the root user. But the sbin directory having the executable file which have access only for the root user, or you can say that the super user. etc directory having the configuration file of your systems, whether it's of your DNS server, whether it's of your FTP server. If your Linux machine is working as a server, its configuration file will be stored in /etc directory. If you talk about its grub, that is Grand Unified Bootloader, that bootloader will stored in /boot directory. It's having the information where on which sector your Linux is there, from where the Linux will be booted. It having the information about that. /lib having some library files similar like to the program files. /media is mounted or loaded devices such as CD-ROM or digital. What do you mean by mounted? Mounted means whenever you plug in any device into your operating system, how will you locate that device is there, is how you can access, how you can read that files. Suppose I plug in a pen drive, how I can check that the data is there, or if I want to read or I want to access that device, I need to go to /media folder. That structure will help you to let you know that where all the configuration files are stored and where you need to locate it. If you want to configure anything, in which directory, that will help you. If you want to access the files of a user, that home directory will help you. It will let you know that every file which is created by a user will be stored under /home directory. /home directory and the name of the person who is logged in, who is user is created. Like suppose ABC user is there, and his home directory will be /home/ABC. It means whenever the ABC user will create a file, it will be under /home/ABC directory. In the Linux, a local user cannot have the access to the other local users file. But if you are a root user or a super user, you can access each and every file, whether it's having the permission or not. MNT is a mount file system. /OPT is a optionally installed programs like third-party tools. If you install a third-party tools, you install a browser, another browser for your Linux operating system, it will be go under /OPT. /sbin is a system only binaries, as we talked about that this is the commands or the executable file which is only executable by a super user or a root user. /sys contains the information about the system. /temp is a temporary file. /usr is a user's regular files, and /var contains the logs of your system. It also contains the logs of your server also. If you having the SSH secure shell login, then it will be stored under /var/log/secure file. Every file is having a different kind of a structure into it. This is an assignment of an IP in the Linux. You can find on the top side of your operating system, whether if it is of a Ubuntu or a Red Hat or a CentOS, any version of that, they're having the same procedure to assign IP. Or if you are running a server edition, which is doesn't having a graphical user interface, then you can assign a IP through the command line interface. There's a file which is located under /etc directory, that is network interfaces file. You can manually add the IP address into that. If you are running a DHCP server in the organization, then the command will help you to get a IP from your DHCP server. Select the edit option in the previous menu. Then you go for the IPv4 setting, because IPv version 4 is running on that. And from that, add a IP, netmask, and the gateway and the DNS server setting, and click OK. And just restart the service. It can be restart with unclicking or clicking to that dialog box, or you can execute a command service network interfaces restart. Both can work similarly. These are some commands which helps you to check and for execute your operating system, that is Linux operating system. ls is a kind of a command which is similar if I talk about in the Windows, that is dir command. Dir command shows the directories of that folder. ls is also shows the listing of that directory. So the content of that directory which are created in your current directory. Current directory means your working path right now, where your control is. Like this. Here it's written root at cdac. After that, there is a hash symbol. If you are having the hash symbol, means you are logged in as a super user. But if you are logged in as a user, you will find a symbol of $. That is the difference between both super user, means a root user, and a local user. If you are a local user, you don't have the access of a /sbin directory commands. But if you are a root user, you can execute any command. cd is a change directory command. It means if you want to change your present working directory to another directory, just execute the cd with the path of that directory. cd space directory name. Like this. cd. After that, documents is a directory. Then press enter. It will change the path to the documents. pwd. It is showing the print working directory, where your control is right now, where you are executing all the commands. That is present working directory. That will help you to get the path of your directory. Or if you are execute cd dot means it is a present directory. It doesn't affect anything, but it will let you know that what is your present working directory. pwd present working directory will execute the command and you will get the path of that directory. like this. See here, execute the command is pwd, and when its output is /home/cdac/documents, it means that I am in the users directory, that is documents directory. Home is a directory where all the users are allocated, and CDAC is a username, name of the user, and the documents is the directory which is personalized to the CDAC user only. I have logged in as a root user, but I have the access of any user at any time. mkdir. mkdir command helps you to create a directory. mkdir with the directory name. But if you want to create like a parent structure, like suppose I want to create a one directory, inside one I want to create two, then two I want to create a three, inside three I want to create four, and so on, then it will not work. Because we need to create the parent first, then its child will be created. Means I need to execute mkdir1, then mkdir1/2 means it's a child, or I can use the switch mkdir-p with the parent. Then if execute mkdir1, let me write here, it will be more easy to understand you. Like if I execute mkdir-p 1/2/3/4, it means parent will automatically created and the child will be also created. In the one directory, it will automatically create two. In the two, it will create three, and the three inside three, it will create number four directory. These are the name of the directories. -p will help you to execute the full structure of your parent directories. This is a command which is just having the syntax of mkdir. ls will show that it is a command directory is created. rmdir helps you to remove the directory, but it only removes the directory if it is empty directory. It doesn't have any data into it. Like suppose I have created three directories. In the one, there's a child directory is a 2, and 2 is having 2 text files. If I want to delete number 1 directory, then I need to delete the child directory, that is 2 directory, and also its files which are already placed into the second directory. I need to remove that files first, then the directory will be deleted. Or I can use a switch for removing the forcefully. That switch is -f. Like, see, I execute a command rmdir with the directory name, and if the directory is empty, it will be removed. Because in the earlier command, I have created that directory is empty directory, and without creating anything into it, I execute the rmdir command. It directly delete that directory. rm command is used to delete or remove the files. This command will help you to delete the structure also of your directory. Like suppose you having different files into a directory and you want to delete each and every file. from it with the same directory, then you can use this rm command to delete each and everything from that directory as well as files. This is a syntax for removing a file. Here you find that rm, after that there is a file linus, after that there is a backward slash, then space, then lab.pdf. Why we are using a backslash here? Because in the Linux, if there is a space in between the name, to demonstrate the space, it uses a backslash symbol for that. Backslash symbol will help you to add a space into the name of that file. If I'll not use that backslash and instead of backslash, I just put a space into it, it will not read by the system. MV command. MV command is used to rename and move a file or a directory. MV command having the two scenarios. Like if your path, you are moving a file from one place to another place and both paths are different, then MV file will work as the moving of the file. Like suppose I'm having a file into /home/cdac directory. Its file name is hello, and I want to move into that temp/tmp directory. Then the command will be mv/home/cdac/hello space/tmp. Both paths are different, then it will work as a moving of the file. If the both paths are same, then it will work as the rename of the file. Like suppose, let me write here. Let me share you. See, suppose I am executing mv command and I am having a file /home. File name is hello. Now, if I write here like this, it means I am moving that hello file into /tmp directory. If I execute this thing, and it will, what it will do, it will move the file hello to /tmp directory. But if I execute like this, it will rename the file. The hello file name will be renamed to data file. Name of the file will be renamed because both paths are same. In above example, this path is different from this path, so it will work as the moving of the file. But if the paths are same, then it will work as the renaming of the file. Like this. This is moving of the file. .dar.gz is a gunzip file, and I'm moving to that desktop directory. Man command is a manual pages of any command which is executable by a user or a root user. It will help you to show its switches and all the things which a command can do. Man with the name of the command. Like ls, you want to get the information about the ls command, how it works, what are the switches they are used. Just write down man. Man means manual pages of which command? ls command. There are other things you can use to get the information about the command also. Man pages are there, info pages are also there. Info is having the different information of the commands which can execute by a system. There is also a database called what is. What is database is also there, present in the Linux operating system, that gives you a little information of that command. What is the command basics? What is the how it is work? But in the man pages, it will show you its syntax also, its switches also, and full-fledged information about the command, which is present in the Linux system. Like this, man with the rm command, it will show you the information about the rm command. Cp command is a copy command. This command helps you to copy from file from one place to another place. It will generate a copy of that file to another location. In the syntax, it's a cp and the file name is r_test.txt is an extension, that is a text file, and r1_test.txt. It means the data of the r_test will be rewritten in another file, that is r1_test on the txt. Both path are same. Where is my present working directory? Where is my control is right now? The file is existing at the same place. Like if you are having a file that is under /desktop directory and you are executing somewhere else, that command will not work. Both path of executing the commands are similar, or you need to mention the full path of that file. Let me start the operating system, then I'll show you how it's work. Some commands. Let it start. This is a copy command, path of the copy command. Shutdown command. Shutdown command is command to shut down the system from the terminal. Just execute init 0. Init 0 called as the run level in the Linux machine. What are the run levels in the Linux machine now? See, if you are working on the Windows operating system, whenever your system is accidentally shut down and you power it on again, you will find a menu there written is start Windows normally, start in the safe mode, start in the safe mode with a command like this. These are the features of Windows that will help you to restore or safeguard your Windows operating system. And in the Linux operating system, there are some run levels. Run levels means in which kind of environment you want to execute your Linux machine. Like you want to execute in the GUI mode, or you want to execute in a troubleshoot mode, or you want to execute in a command line interface with a network services, or without services. See, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 are the run levels present in every Linux machine. 0 means shutdown. If you execute the command init 0, the system will be shut down. And if you execute init 6, the system will be rebooted. And these are all written in a file. Whenever the system will be power on, it will read that file, and whatever the run level is written in that file, that system is booted in that phase only. If it is written in a 5, run level 5, it means it will open in a GUI mode with every service will be executed. But if it is written that your run level is a 3, it means the system will be booted, every service will be executed, but it is not in the GUI mode, it will be executed in the CLI mode, that is command line interface mode. Everything is written, everything is happening in that run level is in the command line interface, that is run level 3. But by default, if you are executing a desktop version of a Linux, it is always in a GUI mode, that is run level 5. If by mistakenly you change the run level in the basic file, that is to 0 to 0 or 6, that means your system will be automatically shut down after you boot your system. This is a command, shutdown -h or init 0. Don't execute both in the same line. Either you can use shutdown -h or init 0. It will help you to shut down your system. This is 6 for restarting your machine. Init 6. If you want to add a new user in the Linux machine, the command is add user. Add user with the username. Let me show you some commands of Linux. Suppose ls is a command. If I execute the ls, it shows that there is two things, new file and a snap, but I don't know that which is a directory and which is a file. If I execute ls-l, it let you know that which is a file, which is a directory. Here in the starting, you find that in the snap, there is a written is a D. D means it's a directory. If nothing is written there, it means it is a file. It's having some text. And directory means it's having some files into it or another directories into it. If you execute CD, which means change directory, you can execute CD to directory, but not to the file. If I execute new file like this, it shows that it is not a directory, it is a file. File can be different kinds of files are available in the Linux. That can be a block size file, that can be a character size file. Yeah, you can say that ordinary file. There are number of types of files available in the Linux operating system. If there is a written that in the file name, in the beginning of the file name, these are called the permissions. These are permissions. RW means this file can be read and write by the owner of that file. And who is the owner? If you find that this is the information about the file, this is the permission of the name which is written here. It means root is a user and it's having the read and write privilege of that file. He can read the file, the data of the file, and also modify the content of the file. And next, R hyphen hyphen means these are the permission of the group member of that file. It means there is a root is a group, and who is the member of that group having this kind of permissions for that file. And the last one is this is, it means this is the permission for the, not for the user, not for the group members and the other persons in, except the owner and the group members, the others. Here in the same, in the directory, you find that there is a permission of RWX. RWX means read, write, and execute. X means execute. If there is a permission of execute, then only you can execute the cd command. See, I execute a cd command here, and it's changed to the /snap directory. If I execute pwd here, present working directory, it shows that my control of my execution of the commands right now. If I execute anything here, it will be executing /root/snap directory. Like suppose I want to create a directory. Now, if I want to check through GUI, you can check that it's in a /root/snap directory. Fine. Let me open /root first. Root directory, because I don't have the permission. I logged in as another user. Let me show you through the GUI only, command line only. Let me do one more thing. Let me change directory to users directory, and let me create a directory here, new. Now, if I open the home directory, see, the new directory is created. It's locked because it is created by another user. If it is created by the similar user, then it will be not locked. It means it doesn't have the access to the another user. It is created, but it doesn't have the access for the another user which are present in the system. See, this is a directory which is created by a root user. Fine. Now, if I want to add a user, or if I want to check how many users are there, just execute the password file. The password file contains the information about the users, which is created by a system or a user. Whenever you install a system, a Linux system, automatically some users are created. That users are some system users, and one user which is automatically create at the time of the installation, that is the root user, and a limited user is also created when system is installed. That user, the information is stored in /password file, PASSWD. Every information of every user is stored into that file. See, there's a Dave is a user, test is a user. These are the names of the users, and it's having the information of that user also. Like this is a username. This is a username. X denotes that it's having a password stored into another file. All the passwords of the Linux machine are stored into shadow file. Shadow file having the passwords of the users which are created in the Linux machine. Now, everybody thinks that if the password is written in that file, then Linux must be not so secure in the means of security. But if you check the passwords, these are passwords are in the encrypted form, not in the clear text. These passwords are stored in the encrypted form. And which method they are using? They are using the SHA. How we get to know that which method is used by the Linux machine? For there's a file that is stored in the /etc. As we talked that every configuration file or every system file will be stored in /etc directory. And that file login.defs will helps you to check out what types of conditions will be executed or sent by the system whenever a command add user will execute. Everything which is written in login.defs will be assigned to the user. See, it's written here that encrypted method is SHA-512. It means whenever the user will create its password, it will be created in the form of SHA-512 method. There are some other things are also written. What will be the name of the UID? What will be the allocation of the GID, group ID name, user ID name? UID and GID are the unique numbers that will be allocated by the system to every user. Every user which is created by a system itself or a user, it will having a unique identification number. That will helps you to get the restriction of one user from another user to keep them files safe. Let me add a user. Right now, if I check here the password, there is a no user like Tom. Let me add a user, add user with the name of Tom. It's asking for the password. Let me create a password for that. No need to write anything. I'm just press the entering into it. Now user is created. If I execute the same command again, shows that there is a user which is created here and it's having a password that is X, and it is the UID, and this is a group ID, this is user ID, and this is a group ID, and this is its home directory, and this is called the shell. Shell means that user can execute the commands or not. After login, will it get an environment to execute the commands or not? If you see, everything is written under / directory. If I execute ls-l here, it is in /root directory. Let me go out of it also. Now, let me clear it. If I execute the present working directory here, it shows that I am on the / directory. This is the parent directory of your Linux system. Above this / directory, nothing is written here. No files, no directories are there. Everything is under this directory. This is the basic structure of the Linux. Every file which is created by a system, whether it's created by a user, whether it's any configuration file, whether it's of a keyboard file, whether it's of a network file, everything is written in this file structure only. If you want to harden your system, these file structure will help you to harden your system. How I can harden my system? Like suppose I am having secure shell SSH is running on my machine. So to secure the SSH, I need to know that which file is used for my configuration for securing my shell. The configuration file is sshd_config. This is a file. By default, my SSH is running on port number 22. But I want that my SSH will run, but not on the port number 22, that is the default port of SSH. So to secure that, I can set wait. I can set that instead of port number 22 to another port. So whenever anybody try to execute the secure shell command, that must know that service is running, SSH service is running, but not on the port number 22. It is running on another port. That can be a user-defined port. Anything. That is a basic thing you can do for securing your Linux machine. Or you can just execute the IP tables. IP tables is called as a firewall, named as in a Windows machine. IP table is a kind of securing your machine from inside and inbound and outbound networks. How a system can access and who can access that system. You can do that. Let me show you IP tables -L. It lists the things which are implemented on your Linux machine right now. If you want to add anything, there are tables, there are forward tables, there are NAT tables, which will help you to add the rules for that. IP tables -A, add in which table you want to add and which policy you want to add. That will need to write it, and then you need to save it. And that password file. Here it's written that /bin bash. It means this user can log into the machine and execute the different commands which are under /bin directory. Bash means it is a shell which provide an environment to execute different type of commands to the user. This is a command add user, which is already told you. Password command helps you to change the password of an existing user. If you want to change the password, you must know its old password. If you are not a root user, if you are a regular user for that. If you are a root user, then it will not prompt for your old password. It will directly prompt for your new password. ifconfig will help you to get the information about the network interfaces information. What is the IP of your machine? What is the net mask of your machine? And regarding the gateway and the DNS information, it is not visible in the ifconfig command. If you want to check that gateway information, that will display in the route-n command. And about the DNS information, you will get the information into the file /etc/resolve.com. Everything is written in a operating system. Linux operating system is in a file. Everything. You must know the file structure for that Linux operating system. Every Linux has similar kind of this file structure. Sometimes the file name is different from another flavor. Like in Ubuntu and in the Red Hat, they both having different network configuration files. But the command that shows the information, that is fconfig, interface configuration. That is look like the output of the command. For the references, you can go for the geeksforgeeks.org and introduction to Linux operating system. And with this, I'm concluding my session here. Any question and any query, please, you can ask in the chat box. Okay.